opportunity, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello, and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I am your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and we are presenting episode 43. Topic, Estes Method. At least that's how I pronounce it. You may pronounce it differently. Basically, we're going to define and explain what that is, and we're going to talk a lot about it. Okay, I know this is kind of it's been a popular subject. People have been waiting for me to talk about it, and it tied with the last week's poll, so here we are. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting me. Please, by all means, share. Keep it clean in the chat. If you're a first-time viewer, this is how it works. If you have a question, if you had some feedback or an opinion on what I'm saying or the topic, go ahead and put it in the comments section. Periodically, we will go to these two lovely ladies right here. Jessica Bias is monitoring the comments on Facebook, and Missy Vastine is monitoring the Facebook comments. So about every 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, we'll go back. We'll see what you guys are saying. We'll shout you out. So if you wanted to be shouted out on the show, just at least comment something through the course of the show, and we'll shout you out. And we're going to get it going. Are you girls ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. How about Jess?
I am.
All right, let's go. Okay. What the Estes Method is a technique that ITC researchers using the spirit box or a sweep radio device. What they do is they'll plug headphones or earbuds into their sweep radio device, and they will completely block themselves off from hearing anything that is being asked of the spirits to say through the box. So just pretend, I have these earbuds here. I plug them to my ghost box, and I don't pay attention to the questioner. I just repeat what I think I hear on the ghost box. And that's what happens. So the idea and the reason behind this method is they're trying to eliminate the power of the mind, trying to make out what they want to hear or what they think they should hear based on the questions. For example, if they're asking for spirits to tell them what their name is, if something comes across the box that sounds like Tom or Matt, that's immediately what they're going to think. If the person with the headphones don't know what's being asked, they're only going to say or repeat what they hear. So we're removing that element, and this is supposed to be a method to try to validate what's coming through the box. And there's issues still. And if you've watched any of my shows about the sweep radio devices and the spirit boxes and ghost boxes, you'll understand already what my qualms are and what my issues are. But this is an interesting method. At least it's an attempt to try to validate what they get more. But before we go in deeper with my opinions on using the ghost box in the first place, we're gonna take a look at some things here real quick. Let's see if we can. We'll go over here and we'll turn on this monitor. Here, we'll pop this open. Okay. Now let me see if I can put the overlays up top here for you guys. Excuse me. Okay. What we're seeing is an article by Week and Weird, and I come across this article a couple weeks ago, and it pretty much states the people who claim to have developed this method. It says, for the last 2 decades, ghost hunters have relied on a fairly unchanging bag of tools, but a new parapsychological experiment is shaking up the field with jaw-dropping results. After appearances in Travel Channel's Kindred Spirits and Planet Weird's Hellier, the Estes Method, sometimes called the SB7 Spirit Box experiment, is changing the way people investigate the paranormal. And it goes on to say that just 3 years ago, a groundbreaking new form of extrasensory communication was conceived in Estes Park, Colorado, deep within the haunted walls of the famous Stanley Hotel. At the time, the creators, full-time resident paranormal investigator of property, had little idea of what they had developed. So they're stating on January 21st, 2016, Carl and this other guy named Connell Randall, along with Michelle Tate, are the ones that come up with it. Okay, interesting, right? 2016. Let's make sure we see this. It says 2016 here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll blow it up just a little bit. Let me get my cursor over here. It says 2016 here. Right there. And this is some screen grabs from the video that they have on the article. Okay? Spells it out. Now, I started investigating in 2013, and I have already heard about this, but it was called something different. It's called the Double Blind Ghost Box. So there was a book and two gentlemen that has a YouTube channel that's that's dead now. They don't do anything with it, but it was called Supernatural Media, and they wrote a book called the Double Blind Ghost Box: Scientific Methods, Examples, and Transcripts. And basically, it was doing the same thing. You can read the synopsis here. This is their book on Amazon. And if you look at the publishing date, right here, April 30th, 2013. Okay, you can go on the Supernatural Media YouTube channel and watch them demonstrate the method. So, interesting. Whoops. So that's interesting, right? Yeah. So what they're claiming, the Estes Method is claiming that it's a completely original idea. The first thing I want to state is, no, it is not. It is not an original idea. It's actually been done for at least 10 years, if not longer. And it's hard to say who the first person was to do it. But soon as paranormal investigators started catching wind of this, they wanted to market it. They wanted to claim it as theirs so they can, become noticed. And this happens all the time. It's not a real big deal, but I want you guys to be educated on this. This has been going on. This technique's been going on for at least 10 years, if not longer, based on my research. I don't know if the two guys' names, let's see if I can get their names here. This Sean Taylor, co-founder of Supernatural Anomaly Investigations, and he was born in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And he has another guy. I'm sorry if I don't mention him, but Sean Taylor is the lead investigator, I think, of Supernatural Media. So, the Estes Method is not a new method. It's not a new thing. It's been around the parafield for a while. It just hasn't been known by a lot of ITC researchers. So I thought that would be something interesting to throw out to you. Some of you may not have known that. So it's been around for the field for a long time. So with that being said, there's still problems. You can claim that what you hear on the box is paranormal, is anomalous, is a spirit, but there's no validation. You can only get validation when you can claim there's or you can find and prove and demonstrate there's a manipulation of the radio wave, either in the air or internally. Now, hopefully we come out with a device that we can give people and sell people, or at least show them how to build it. I have a crude device set up. If you're interested on how to test both those theories, I've already come up with the method, but it involves two SB7s, a 4-channel PCM recorder, and a wireless transmitter and receiver. If you have those things, get a hold of me. I can show you step by step how to set that up. But basically what it does is you take two spirit boxes, you sweep them simultaneously from the same station, so they're both receiving the same station and sweeping at the same rate. If one of the boxes spits out something different than the other box, that should be impossible. They both have to share the same antenna, the same reception. That can prove some internal manipulation. It should be physically impossible. They both should always spit out the same things. Now, if the manipulation is done in the air before it even gets to the radio, then you feed that same audio, the two SB7s, into a wireless transmitter, record it before it goes through the transmitter, and then record what comes out through the receiver. If there is a difference between the transmitter and receiver, then you have validated and isolated manipulation over the air. Those are two things you can do, and I think that is something that we should be doing. We should, if we think that something's happening, we should test it, and that's what we try to do all the time. So, the Estes method, it's an attempt in the right direction, but it's still very flawed, and we have to try harder. And I wish the ideas I present on this show can get more widespread. So if you think what I propose to validate more of the Spirit Box replies is a good idea, please share the idea. I don't care if it was my idea. I'm sure somebody else thought of this. Okay, there's probably other nerds out there that think of the same crap I do, way before I did. So I can't claim the idea, but I want other people trying it because it should validate it. If you don't think it does, by all means, please tell me a better way or explain why that method has a problem. So, it's weird that a paranormal show like Kindred Spirits are trying to do that, but they're still using methods that are debunked, like the flashlight ITC thing. Like, I don't know why people would use an ITC method with randomly blinking lights. Okay, if they're going on and off randomly, how can you use that? Well, it's the same thing with the ghost box. If it's randomly spitting out RF, same problem. Now, a lot of people believe or don't know that FM bands have a spectrum and a bandwidth. If you're listening to 101.9, you're still going to get portions of the broadcast on 99.9 to 102.5. There's a bandwidth. It'll become statically, become clear, then come staticky again. So there's a bandwidth that you can receive the same channel frequency on. So when you're sweeping, it doesn't matter how fast you're sweeping through FM. You're still sweeping through a bandwidth. You're still going to catch that radio channel pretty good, no matter how fast you're going. AM is different. Each channel it has no bandwidth. So there you go. There's a quick breakdown. Let's start the shout outs, see what's going on, and proceed.
Okay. I have Becky Compton. I have Christy Brown. I have Derek Schreiner. I have Josh Bender. I have Bill Davis. You were watching. I have Sandy Griffith. I have Sharon Moritz. I have the Paranormal Reporter. Nelson. I have Greg. I have Marlene Gump. Heather Elliott.
That's mommy.
Yes, that's mom. Yes. And Sandy, me, and Becky agree that we don't like the spirit box. It drives us insane. Dan Porter is watching also, and David Wolver. And that's all I have for right now.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
All right. On YouTube, we have Sam Thomas, Dilla Dander, which is Glenda, Jen Rogue, Debbie, Joe Ventali, Craig Williams, and John Cool. John Cool said that he just heard of this method recently, and he's not convinced of the mechanics behind it. And Sam said, if you study this and can't explain this, this is evidence, right? If explained, it's debunked.
Well, when it comes to what we're talking about, you can only narrow down things, and you got to try. If you have a theory, like if you're using a spirit box, it depends on what type of researcher you are. If you're just trying to convince yourselves and believers based on faith, that's one thing. If you're trying to validate and test a hypothesis that you have, which could be, I think that they're taking the radio frequencies and manipulating them and putting them into words. I've heard that a lot. And I'll be like, okay, you can prove that. You can figure out a way to see if it's happening. Because This is take 100 radios, sync 100 radios up. Are they all going to spit out the same thing, or it's just the one that the spirit's using to talk to you? It's going to change what you normally hear, what's normally being broadcasted, into whatever it wants. So if that's what's going on, you can test that. It's way harder, but you can do it. But if we're going to go down that road, I think it's worth doing. Any other? I see a lot of comments flying through there.
On YouTube?
Both.
Oh.
Is that all you had on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. I know Missy's got at least have one or two.
David Wolverine said, "You live in Hillsboro. I'm in Washington Courthouse, and we haven't met yet."
Sorry, man. My daughter's played softball in Washington Courthouse for the last 2 or 3 years.
He also said, "I am really on the fence about using just a straight box, but using that method, I can see this can help me be be more of a believer, because I'll be less influenced by the surroundings and by hearing the questions read."
Right. It is. I would agree that it is better doing that than just, everybody sitting around in a circle and trying to make sense out of the chaos coming out of it.
And now they're talking about Waverly, and then what Nelson's team did at Waverly.
Yeah, they just got done with that.
The paranormal reporter said, "You're trying to make their setups 8 hours long." Josh said, "Of course, that's why we start our setup the night before."
Well, when he says make my setups 8 hours long, I'm not sure if I follow that. What we're doing is actual research. Okay, because you can be at a party and someone could be over there talking while everybody else is talking, and there could be commotion going on, and you're trying to listen to them. You may hear something different than what they're saying, okay, because there's a lot of interference going on, like the ghost box gives out, and it's subjective. It's what you hear may not be what it's saying at all. So that's it just depends on your approach. If you're trying to know if it is objectively, you can't just listen to something and say, "Oh, I think it's that." Same with EVP. A lot of the EVP or alleged EVPs we hear, it's very subjective. Just recently, we have a new subscriber on our YouTube channel, and she said she loved our stuff, but she couldn't stand us not subtitling what we thought were EVPs. She said she was, hard of hearing, and it helps her. And I told her, I was like, look, we don't want to suggest anything to our audience. We want them to tell us what they hear. So it's kind of peer reviewed that way. It's not full on peer review, but it's a little bit of peer review. And she understood what we were going for. But there's a lot of subjective, things going on, and the research should be eliminated. You should be okay. Here I will link the video. For people to check out. So I did off an hour or two tech talk on this, and I explained the setup on how to test both theories. So let me find the playlist. Let's see here. Okay, there it is. I will bring it up for you guys so at least you can see what it looks like. Okay. I'll pause it. Okay, what you're looking at here, I'll get that out of the way. What you're looking at is SB7 here and SB7 here, and they're both synced up and ran into this recorder. So it's recording both the spirit boxes at once, and you have to start them at the same channel and sweep at the same rate, starting at the same channel. And once you've verified it's sweeping and syncing the same, you have to sit there and watch it for a minute or two, make sure it doesn't wander from each other. Then it goes into the recorder. Well, you take a splitter and run that audio into the wireless transmitter, and then run it to this receiver and record also what's coming into the receiver. So after all that nonsense, you can cross-check one spirit box with the other. If they're both saying the same things, or the both noises are the same, there's no anomaly. If one deviates from the other, then you can start looking at it as being a possible anomaly. Now, if you cross-check the recordings before the transmission and after the transmission of the wireless setup, you can see if there's some in-air modulation and manipulation. So that's the kind of setup I'm talking about. And it does take hours and hours and hours to analyze that. But that's the kind of research that I do. I want to know if those two theories are correct. So if you're interested in that, I will link this. If you're interested in it, type 1 in the comments. If I see enough ones, I'll link it. Go ahead.
John Cole had a comment. Sensory deprivation will only allow the mind to create thoughts. If you know of the story of the location, your responses may match that location.
Yes, really good thing to bring up. Your mind.
And he said, I'm sorry. And then he said, then the storytelling begins based on the responses.
Right.
And Val just joined. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you know that there's a story of a little girl haunting the room that you're in, and you hear a little girl sounding voice, your mind's gonna run with that. Oh, I think that's that little girl, and then it's over. The objectivity's out the window. So if you really want to go in blind, if you don't want to be, influenced by any of the history or the ghost lore of the location, don't go through the tour, don't do any research, don't look at any photos, don't talk to your team before you go. That would be my suggestion.
Robert Veach said nice setup with 2 SB7s.
Oh, Robert didn't have to tell me he would like that. I already know.
Jamie Hunt just jumped on. Josh said
That's
we
right
really
up
don't
Robert's-
investigate. We just hang out and eat pizza.
That's right up Robert's alley. What did Josh say?
He said we don't really investigate. We just hang out and eat pizza.
He lies. We hang out, eat pizza, and fart on camera.
Right.
Jen, I think this is a question. I did somehow overlooked her question earlier. Great. Do they have a separate aerials at similar locations?
Do they have separate aerials?
Okay, maybe that wasn't a question. Maybe she was talking amongst each other.
Read the noise reduction comment, Missy. Greg Koss.
He said noise reduction headphones and eyebrows help eliminate the contamination in the room, especially if you have a group of people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Our major concern is the mind. If you can turn off the subjective nature of the mind, then that would improve the situation. What my point is, if you just cross-check 2 spirit boxes running together, you can validate the manipulation. It doesn't take any subjectivity. That's the most objective approach I can advise someone to go. But we are going to try this. We usually don't sweep radios. If we break out the spirit box, we use the white noise to see if it can be modulated into EVP. But we'll try it. We'll live stream it. We'll try it out. We have an investigation March 30th. We'll try it there to see what you guys think. Now, we'll stick headphones on Jess and Missy. They don't know jack about the location. We've kept them in the dark already. So they would be the best subjects for that. Go ahead.
Robert Veach said the SB7 can switch radio frequencies in less than 100 milliseconds with extreme channel frequency accuracy. If you get a contagious set of 4 or more syllables from just one PSB7, consider that some form of validation.
Well, it depends. Like I said, the FM you're sweeping FM, there's a bandwidth. If there's a strong radio frequency coming in on 102.3, you're going to hear portions of that in the high the high 100s, like 101 point whatever, and then after it at like 103. There's a bandwidth. If you can tell, if you manually sweep in between the channel, you will hear portions of that channel before and after the frequency. So that's why I always, advise people to use AM if they sweep.
And then Heather Elliott, she calls the Estes method the double blind. She said the problem with the double blind is unless you're recording what's coming out of the spirit box while the one person is listening, then you can't review and try to validate. Someone can claim they heard a phrase, but you don't really know how accurate they heard it.
Right. That's very important. You should definitely be recording it. I thought that went without saying, but maybe some people wouldn't think of that.
John said that PSB 7 at 100 ms is still slow.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to get snippets, and that's the thing. You're listening to radio frequencies really fast, so you're going to get partial snippets of radio frequencies. That's a problem. If you hear like a quick syllable or a couple of syllables mixed together from adjacent channels, your brain's going to try to make that into a word. We're getting a lot of stuff coming in now.
Joe says when he investigates, he likes to completely shut anything down that could be suggested to his mind. However, if I have any kind of fear, I usually put my fear face on. Just ask Amy. We seen his fear face.
Yeah. PM me an example of your fear face, and I'll throw it up. Alicia Chapman, I actually know her in person. The weird thing about a lot of these is getting someone who can feel it before you can hear or see it. I like that. We do utilize psychics and mediums. They're an important part of the research, but they can also be influenced, skewed, and even wrong sometimes. So they're just independent variables along with everything else that you have to cross-check. Keep going, guys. Keep combing through this. We're getting a lot of comments here. Yeah, you got to use the same antenna.
Have you tried the SB7?
I'm sorry?
He asked, have you tried the SB7?
Yes.
Or 11, I mean.
Yes, we have an SB11. That's what we use primarily for the white noise generation. Sometimes if we don't feel like carrying around that big SB11, we will carry around the SB7 just because it's smaller. But we just put it on. The SB7 is cool because it has frequencies that the Japanese, like FM frequencies the Japanese broadcast on. So they're like in the 70s, like 75 to 76, something like that. So we put it on there, use the white noise, don't sweep, and try to see if we can get an EVP just using the white noise. Because we used to use recorded examples of white noise, but that's not, we need raw white noise.
John Cool said, record all items together. You have the listener, the questioner, and the spirit box for an after review. Excuse me.
Yes, we'll go back to the setup again. So if you take a look at this setup, this recorder in the middle records, these two mics will record all the sound outside of all the devices. So it'll record the questioner and all the ambience in the room. The SB7s are split. They go into the recorder, and they're recorded on separate channels, and then they're split to the wireless setup. So they go through the wireless setup. So you see a wire coming out of here and running into the recorder itself, so you can cross-check what's coming out of the boxes before the transmitter and then after the receiver. So that's the best. If you have something better than that, let me know, because I want to do it.
Derek said we should just carry a boom box like in the 80s on our shoulder to see if the dated spirits want to break dance with us.
I can see Justin now going like this.
I'll probably fall down, bust my knee, and gravy pour out.
Isn't that off of a movie?
Is what off the movie?
What, holding the boom box and going like this? What's that? It's just, or of a song?
It could
Come
be.
on.
Wasn't it a commercial, I think?
I don't remember.
Christy said she
It's
has AON stereo.
Yeah, John, we use Tascams and Zooms. That's all we use. Sometimes we use the small Sony recorders, but very rarely. Like, we'll run a lav mic into a Sony recorder. That's what we're going to record Jess's audio with when we investigate, because we don't have a wireless mic for her yet. All right, guys. Awesome conversation going on. Awesome questions. Awesome feedback. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is what I need to know what you guys think. I need to talk to you guys about this, because if what I think and what I feel about this subject, or any of the subjects I talk about on the show, is going to make it to your ears, I have to be willing to listen to what you think and your ideas. And I have to be respectful of them, because I've learned so much on this show from other people, whether it be ideas or just viewpoints. I need to understand the people that I'm trying to impact. I got to understand how they think, how they feel, why they think that, why they feel this, so I can develop a way to come at them with my opinions and my ideas. And so far, it's worked out great. The community that we're establishing here on my blog page is freaking awesome. And I just wish everyone would come talk to me about this stuff, because I just want to be overloaded with what everybody thinks about this subject. Of course, there's going to be varying opinions. People are going to use the spirit box. They're going to sweep through. They're going to hear voices, and they believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's a spirit manipulation. It could be. I have heard some amazing things come across the device, but I want to know if I can validate it, prove it using some type of scientific method or process to objectively say, okay, this is anomalous because this isn't possible. What happened on this box should not happen. That setup that I showed you is the way to do that. There could be other ways, and I want to kind of stimulate people into thinking in other ways to be doing that. Now, the Estes Method is a way, is going down that road. They're trying to be more objective, and I don't want to shoot that down. But what I want to do is try to encourage you guys to try even harder. Yes, if you're going to do the Estes experiment, please record what's coming out of the spirit box, record what the person's saying, what they hear, record the questioner. You could try putting the listener in a separate room to completely isolate them away so they don't have to wear blindfolds if they don't want to. And you can do it that way. I've even thought about sticking someone in the room and putting a two-way radio in the room so that the spirits can hear. But I was talking to Robert Murphy on EPS earlier. Spirits don't have ears. So how are they actually hearing you? Are they speaking telepathically or listening telepathically, or using some type of empathic ability? They're feeling your emotions and translating those. Or are they using some type of, telepathy, reading your mind, essentially? So another experiment, an idea that I want to propose to you guys is going to be cool. You get a dry erase board or a notepad. Instead of asking the question out loud, you think it to yourself. And as you're thinking it, you write it down. You wait for a response. And you conduct a whole session that way. And then you have record. You can even timestamp it. I ask what your name was. Will you please speak your name at 9:49 p.m.? And that would be interesting, because if you get responses that way, then you know that speaking it is not even needed at all. You know that how they're communicating is, through some type of psychic means. So those are out of the box, or outside the box rather, ideas that I want you guys trying. If you have tried that, please publish your results, because I want to see that stuff. We're going to be trying to do that stuff. Alicia, that's a good question. I want to get to others. Anaheim Paranormal just sent me an SLS camera, and we are going to be testing that this year. I know I've talked about it on this show. It was one of the first devices I pretty much bashed, but you can't bash something until you try it. That's what I told Josh the other night. So we're going to experiment with the Kinect, but I can't go into that. If you want, you can go back on YouTube on the archives and see that episode and see what I told you about it, because Kenny Biddle actually called Microsoft and did all the research on how the device actually works. But stick around. You will see how I will explain again how that device works on the live streams and the things we publish in the next month or so. So what else do we got going on here? There's a big one by Robert Veach, I see.
Yes. He said, I have the antenna removed, FM, on my SB7, and it has a plug, so I can intentionally detune it to minimize channels coming in. I feel there is some form of basic frequency modulation that an entity can produce. It is small in EMF, so it can impart it right to the SB7 front end modulator. Circulatory does not require the SB7 to be fully tuned to the respective bands coming in. I even had an SB7 in a metal cage and got responses. How weird is that?
Okay, well, the first thing I would say is removing the antenna will eliminate a lot, but not all the strong. It will receive some strong local stations, possibly. Especially if you plug in things to the device, that will act as more of a antenna itself. Putting it into a Faraday cage definitely helps, but if it's not properly grounded, you may still get RF coming through. But putting shielding around it definitely helps, like there's little Faraday pouches. So the last part of it even had the SB7 in a metal cage. How weird is that? So yeah, if you're still getting responses, you definitely need to still prove that it is being modulated. If you hear something because you think it shouldn't come out of it, doesn't mean it's modulated. I want you to think even more critically than that. Keep going, guys. I see Joe.
I have one from Jen, just a comment, said that Jen said, my dad helped me communicate with ghosts telepathically as a child. Maybe I did it anyway, but when I was awake, I tried verbally and it didn't work. Said, the next time I go to a location, I'm going to use my voice to text because we all know that works. Sarcasm. I'm going
That's
to ask
actually not a bad idea. If you can get it to work.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question, then activate voice to text to see if I can get a response.
That might be cool.
Yeah, I would try it.
I think that's it. Deity Paranormal joined as well.
Hey, thanks for chiming in. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of extra traffic tonight, which is great. I figured that I would.
Heather Elliott asked, has anyone gotten anything using one channel? I've tried it a bunch of times, but nothing yet.
No.
And Derek said, I think we did it Crybaby Tunnel, I believe.
Crybaby Tunnel. I'll have to go back and listen to it. I don't think we did on the one channel, but I could be wrong. If we have it, it's super rare. Mothman.
I was going to say Mothman. Do you think the paranormal is a subject phenomena that can take place in the mind? I think it's a method of a brilliance because it focuses on the perception of a person's
interpretation.
Yes, I lost it. They were typing.
Yes, I do think that. I think that anything that involves the senses and any type of perception is subjective. When you're just using your senses, we use things to extend our senses, like recorders, cameras, stuff that does that. So that's a way to objectify some of the things that we use our senses to do. So if we're psychically seeing some paranormal phenomena or psychically hearing some paranormal phenomena, that's one thing. I definitely think that's possible. But if we're recording it and videotaping it, it will no longer become subjective. And furthermore, if your buddy's standing right next to you and they said, "Oh shit, I just seen a ghost right there," and I just seen the same thing. That becomes less subjective. So yes, I do believe that it's subjective, but not all the time, and I think that it's a good idea to try to objectify these things.
John had a question. Is it still possible that the experimenter or others in the room may be manipulating the device too, just as in EVP?
I'm not going to say it's not possible. You could test it. Try to manipulate it. See if you can manipulate it.
Michael Allen Phillips just joins.
Bye, Alicia, if you're still on. Thanks for chiming in.
Jack Brewer said, on my spirit box, I took out the antenna and also the magnet inside the box and removed the wires that connect to it. That being said, I have gotten no radio interference. I've gotten some really good evidence this way. Just thought I would share.
You cannot completely remove the spirit box from receiving RF. You can immensely hinder it, but you cannot remove it. The only way you can remove it if you stick it in a properly constructed Faraday cage. I can rip the AM and FM antennas out completely and still receive radio transmissions. I've done it.
Christy Brown said, so what's the difference between using a recorder to communicate and a spirit box to communicate?
Besides the obvious?
She's your wife. I don't know.
So what's the difference between using a recorder to communicate and a spirit box to communicate? Well, the difference is you're just listening either for acoustic energy or some kind of manipulation of the recorder. In a spirit box, you're using a radio and asking for things to manipulate the radio to get responses. So the difference is the devices. And one records sound compression waves, and all transducers and microphones do is convert one type of energy into another. Spirit boxes, they receive radio transmissions. That's the difference. Jack Brewers, I'll send you a picture. Jack, your comment is next.
He took the magnet out of the spirit box. I already read that comment.
Okay.
He said he'd send you a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
Heather's just talking about what evidence they got in at Waverly this weekend.
Oh, who is Heather?
Heather, they went to Waverly last weekend.
They sure did. They sure did. She said it was quiet when it got later, and hell, both times we went, it was not quiet. All you heard was airplanes, trains, coyotes, dogs, traffic. Okay, Mothman Historia chimed in again. I don't know if you're seeing that, Jess.
Yes, the idea of the method highlights that perhaps that we think we hear is the paranormal
manipulation.
Yes, they're typing and it's moving it. I'm sorry.
I can read it if you need me to.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The idea this method highlights is that perhaps we think we hear is the paranormal manipulation as opposed to the audio itself. This also plays into ideas of psychic phenomena. What do you think? Yeah, I do think that psychic phenomena is definitely possible in the process of manipulation. A lot of people has told me that EVP is a psi phenomena and not a physical phenomena, which would require electromagnetic fields, charged particles, stuff like that. It definitely could be psi related. Definitely could. I think that answers your question, Mothman. If that did not answer it, maybe you can elaborate on your question a little bit more. The idea this method highlights is what perhaps we think we hear is the paranormal manipulation as opposed to the audio itself. Okay, yeah. He's going on about the subjectivity of what we're hearing versus the audio manipulation itself. So that I would bring back my advisement of using that setup to prove some type of manipulation occurred. Heather said it was pretty quiet. You do hear cars at times, and I hear a dog bark at one point. Later in the night, I could hear a pin drop when I walked a second. Oh, that's good.
Christy asked what she said. What I mean, she said, what I mean is if they can use one device, then they can use any type of device, or maybe just one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I definitely think about this all the time. If they can modulate radio frequencies or manipulate a spirit box, they should be able to do something way easier and more simple. They should be able to spike an EMF meter. They should be able to mess with any type of electronic equipment that you have, like turn on a light in the room or anything much more simple. So what my suggestion would be is to not break out that ghost box until you see supporting evidence of things being electronically messed with. So if your laptop's acting funny, if your recorder's acting funny, if your camera's acting funny, your battery's drained for no reason over and over, then you can start saying, okay, it can mess with this stuff. Maybe it can mess with the ghost box. So yeah.
Greg
I
said
agree with Christy
a whole lot of info. I think my head's going to explode.
I'm sorry, Greg, but at the same time, that makes me happy.
Why can't they manipulate this infrared heater that gives off a ton of EMF? Christy said.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Why can't they manipulate this infrared heater that gives off a ton of EMF?
Good question. Robert Veach asks, Justin, have you gotten valid responses using the dual SB7 setup? Not yet. The setup that I showed you, I'm not running the two SB7s using one antenna. So I have not made a perfect setup yet. Because what I noticed running that last setup is both, if you use two FM antennas, they're tuned slightly different than each other, and they're in different locations. So they can't receive the same RF in the same way. So I noticed that some of them came through staticky, or the other SB7 came through clear. And I don't want that to happen. But I have not got any luck with that. We're going to use that setup this year. I promise, Robert. We'll publish all the results of this stuff once we start March 30th, and we'll be investigating at least once a month all the way through the year. I will promise I'll live stream this crap for you guys.
West Storm asks, EVPs seem to be the most common type of activity. Is that right? And if so, why?
When it comes to getting things on devices, yes, I believe that's true. I think the most common activity is probably like footsteps, and whether it's paranormal or not, tappings and bangs, doors opening. A lot of times people see shadow anomalies, but I think the most common phenomena reported, and the most common that I have observed in my research and my whole entire life, is footsteps. What do you think, Missy?
Yeah.
What's the most common?
I agree. Footsteps.
It's like a daily occurrence almost.
Right.
Yes, Robert, I've seen your custom. You use a K2 meter. If you get an EMF hit, it activates the SB7 to where you can hear the responses. If there is no hit on it, it's muted. I have seen that. So what you're trying to do is correlate EMF with SB7 responses. Very interesting setup.
Marilyn joins.
Hi, Marilyn.
Happy birthday, Marilyn.
It is Marilyn's birthday. Happy birthday. Everybody tell Marilyn happy birthday in chat for me, please. Thank you.
Craig wants to know, is it possible for dogs to hear spirits too?
Sure.
Yes.
Probably better
Missy's
than we
like,
can.
yes.
Probably better than we can. They hear much better than we can. So if spirits can be heard, they are definitely hearing it better than we can. But they have a different frequency response. Their eardrums hear higher pitched noises. That also could be a reason why they hear better.
Real said happy birthday over here.
This is awesome that people are chiming in to talk about this. A lot of people are really interested in the Estes method. That is in the paranormal pulp culture. Like, it's in there. People are like, I want to do this. I think it's a great idea. I hope you do get some, take some stuff from this show, what we discussed, and kind of use it. What will my brain do to my subjective perception when hearing these responses? So maybe trying to go to places that you know nothing about. If it sounds like an evil voice, don't assume that it's evil. If it sounds like a woman, don't assume that it's a woman. After all, you are listening to radio frequencies. Okay, so I think that if it's manipulated, it's my experience with manipulated or modulated RF or white noise is it sounds nothing like the person did in real life. If they can make white noise or RF sound exactly like them when they lived, that's mind-blowing. Whoa. That's crazy. I don't presume to know or assume to know how they do it, what their capabilities are, what's possible. I don't know. I don't want to think for 1 second that I know what's possible and what's not possible. But the stuff that I got that I was able to validate, it didn't sound human at all. It sounded like a modulated white noise sound that sounded like words.
You don't have to have your eyes covered for the Estes method, do you?
No. This article here, so let's go back to it. This one right here, you see a picture of their eyes covered. So that is part of the experiment. But if you look at this picture here, he's closing his eyes. So the idea is to cover your eyes. It's the double blind. It was originally named double blind. So you cover your eyes, you cover your ears, and only listen to the spirit box. So we can watch this. We got a little bit of time left.
Is there somebody out here or what?
I'm dizzy, but I just put up in the tent.
Feels like electricity.
So this is the third year in a row the band Murder by Death has come up to the Stanley Hotel for a huge concert.
Okay, we're gonna fast forward here.
What color my shoes are.
I plugged in the spirit box first, listening on FM stations, and I heard very little.
Let's fast forward here.
How did you die?
Scary.
I wasn't scared.
It sounded like evil. I'm just the messenger here. That was me. Speaking.
What's evil?
Connor, the investigator in the hallway. Not the ghost. Okay, now I'm going back into listening to the ghost. Now.
What's evil?
Connor said now, not the ghost. Now.
Stop it.
Hi.
Hello.
Who told?
I did.
410.
Oh my god, that is weird. That is weird.
The funny thing about it was, I think I know who that spirit is, and I think it's a familial spirit, meaning someone that I was close to when they were living, and I think it was my friend back from Texas. The reason why I think it could be my friend is because we had these really specific responses coming through. For example, it said, "Who told?" And right away, as I was thinking about that friend, it said that. And so I knew it was directed at me, and I said, it was me. And it replied before 10, which definitely means something to me. I don't really want to elaborate on it, but it was so specific that I knew it had to be him.
Is there anything we should know about this concert hall and investigating here and the spirits that are here?
Safe here.
Safe here?
Pride.
You proud to be a spirit here? Are you proud of this place?
Very.
Are you a new spirit here? And you're excited to be a spirit of the Stanley?
Did you come here because you like The Shining?
Sort of.
Can you sing Endless?
Fading.
Would you like us to let you go?
For now.
Now here's the thing to keep in mind. I can't hear anything that they're saying. All I'm getting is this radio interference over and over again, and it's almost melodic and sort of hypnotizing in your head as you're listening to this. It's a very bizarre experience that if you're an investigator, I invite you to try yourself at home, especially with some big, loud, noise-canceling headphones. You can't hear anything, and I'm saying the words that I'm hearing coming across simply being the messenger. It wasn't until later that I went back and watched that session that I was impressed with the words that I was hearing because the spirits, for whatever reason, decided to talk to me or through me through this device. So pretty impressive stuff, and it's something we decided to continue trying.
So yeah, there you go. That should be a good example of it. Very subjective. We heard the female investigator state that she was thinking about somebody who passed that she knew in Texas. She heard something that she tied to it. You know, so anytime you tie some emotional event or something personal to what's going on, you can become quickly compromised. So by seeing that and observing that, you should understand that the subjective nature of how we tie things to meaningful things when we're investigating is not the best idea. I do not advocate that, but it's hard not doing it. I will say that. We'll catch up on any final closing questions and comments, and we'll wrap it up, girls.
I don't have any.
You don't have any. What about Jess?
If you want to read Mothman's.
You don't want to read it? Let me go back here. Okay.
Well, there's one word, and I don't want to mess it up.
I am not sure if there really is a scientific way to monitor, investigate this, if truly is based on human perception, anecdotal experience, and the subjective mind. It might be separate beyond that field. We can look for anomalies. That's all we can do. We can't assume that it's a spirit. We can't assume what it says. We can't be sure about what it says, who's saying it, all that information. All we can do is saying that should not happen. That is anomalous. That's the only thing we can do. So, in essence, true.
I'm sorry. Joe said that last investigation that he was on, they tried that and it didn't work out very well.
I would advise doing it more than once. Got to give it a fair shot. We're going to do it at least 10-15 minute session every investigation to see what the results are after a year. That's what I'll do for you guys. We'll do it at least once at every investigation for 10-15 minutes, and we'll publish the results. We'll live stream them if we can, so you can see them happen raw and in the moment.
If you can remember.
If we can remember, you mean?
Right.
It's not just me, damn it. I'm wearing so many hats, you can wear some of them for me. That means you too, Jess. You can help us remember shit too. If I don't remember something, you got to help me.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Why not?
You're muted.
I am?
No, I'm just joking.
I'm stab you right in your face. I'm gonna take your saying.
You guys hear it. I never say that. Derek in the background laughing.
Notice how Mothman says, notice how In this context, using this method, it instantly becomes psychic phenomena. The way that they perform it changes from ghost to mental things predictions. It could be, but there's no way to know. It could.
Okay.
It definitely could.
Derek said I call bullshit, Jess.
The last time I investigated and we did that, it was very random and had nothing to do with what we were asking. Definitely going to try it again, but the first time it didn't work out well. That's what I would expect to happen. Majority of the time. So there's statistics involved in doing this. If you do it 100 times and one time it worked freakishly like that one video showed, coincidence. If you know the math and know the statistics that says that it happens more than it statistically should, it's hard to calculate those things. I don't know how to calculate that. You would have to talk to some kind of genius. They would have to go over your experiment and calculate it for you. It would involve how many stations you were sweeping through, how many stations you could pick up versus or white noise. I mean, there's so many variables. So,
Mothman said, suddenly the person listening becomes almost a mind reader, fortune teller. It's much different from the other ways people use the device. I think it's great. Joe said, actually, the video of that will be out tomorrow.
All right. Nice. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up the show. Thanks, girls, for helping. Once again, you did great. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been an awesome show, a very memorable one. I'm very glad that I was able to have a show discussing this topic. I enjoyed every one of your guys' opinions, questions, and feedback. It's great. Absolutely great. Necromancer is on hiatus right now, and I'm no longer doing the Supernatural Symposium show right now. I have to change up the format a little bit. We will do some live streams maybe next week. That's not this show. I might do some show off some of our newer equipment and some of the stuff that we'll be doing that's new. The Estes Method being one of the things that we're going to try to do. We're going to try to do some different things. So I'm going to try to bring you guys some more live content in the meantime. But we're gearing up for season 6, guys. If you're not following us on Facebook, please do so. Interface Death on Facebook, YouTube. It's Interface Death Paranormal Research on YouTube, and let's just go to it. Interfacedeath.net is where you can see all of our content. It's the hub of everything we do. Check that out. The link is in the video description. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow Justin Brown Paranormal Research, which is the blog page. I'm live streaming on Facebook. You can check out Interface Death on Twitter and Instagram. Patreon.com/support Interface Death is a way you can support this content, make sure it stays and gets better. So we keep doing it. We'll talk more about that in a second. And if you're watching on Facebook, there's a link for YouTube. Patreon is a way that without it, we basically couldn't do what we're doing. You know, people like Clay Borman, R.J. Murphy, Scotty Fox, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Bill Davis, Joe Vitale, Heather Elliott, General Rogue, Greg Williams, Cherry Capital, Shadow Seekers, and the Ghost Guild is what brings this content. If you like what you see, if you check out our website, check out our videos, and like it and want to be a part of it, these patrons are producers of our video content. So you will be shouted out. You will be, listed as producers in our video productions, and you make it possible. So if you want to do that, check out the link in the video description. That's all I have for you guys. That's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. I love you very much. I will throw up a poll, hopefully tomorrow, to vote for the next topic of the show. You guys are great. You have a good evening. And stick around for some video promotions if you have not seen them. You guys have a good night. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
Are you down there? Not afraid. We know what it feels like to walk in the darkness.
Are you in this room over here? What the fuck, dude?
Whoa.
That's weird.
You didn't do anything, right?
No, I just turned.
Justin too close?
No,
He opened that door and then went off.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just run out of there?